know some words to say. Best do it now.
Catherine stared numbly at the mound. From somewhere inside came a prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Softly she repeated the words, adding a few of her own at the end. "And please, take my Brian into your heart and keep him safe." With one last look, she turned away. Avoiding her eyes, Sam twisted his hat in his hands.
If you want to collect a few things, I'll take you to that little town I saw 2 or 3 miles back.
Again Catherine nodded, unsurprised that he hadn't offered to escort her west to the wagon train. Those so-called good people had already turned their backs on the Murphys. Other than Sam, only one man had shown any concern for them by offering Catherine a revolver for protection from the riffraff who roamed the prairie. Refusing to accept money from the contaminated wagon, he had taken the team of oxen as payment. At the time, Catherine had been too worried about Brian to think of anything else. Now she wondered if greed, rather than compassion, might have been the man's motivation. Catherine made an awkward bundle out of her extra dress, hairbrush, nightgown, and clean underwear. Then she dug to the bottom of the trunk to retrieve the stocking that held what was left of their life savings. It wasn't much, only a single $20 gold piece, but she wasn't about to risk someone coming along and stealing it before she could get back for the rest of her belongings. Thrusting the sock into the center of her clothing, Catherine considered taking the handgun. No, it would only add to the already cumbersome load. She hid it in the trunk and climbed down from the back of the wagon. Her milk cow, Suzette, was already tied to Sam's saddle horn. "If you'll give me a hand with the chicken crate, I'll be ready."
Chicken crate? You crazy?
Well, I can't just leave them out here, can I?
Look, Mrs. Murphy, I've only got 1 horse. There's no room for a crate.
Oh. Catherine looked abashed as she glanced at the horse. Then her face lit up. "Well, how about if I stick them in a flour sack? Really hate to lose them after bringing them all this way." Sam started to say something, then seemed to change his mind and gave her a curt nod instead. Though the 4 birds complained loudly at such rough treatment, they were soon sacked up and tied to the horse. Sam hoisted her onto the saddle and handed her the reins.
Hang on to these while I take one more look around.
Recognizing the signs of a man who had already been pushed too far, Catherine was afraid to tell him she didn't have the faintest idea how to control a horse. Not sure what else to do, she talked in a soothing voice to the animal, complimenting him on what a wonderful creature he was. Apparently the horse was not immune to flattery, for he stood perfectly still until Sam returned a few minutes later. Catherine barely had time to wonder what she was supposed to do before Sam swung up behind the saddle and reached around her to take the reins. Without a word, he prodded the horse into motion, and they took off at a jarring pace. Catherine contemplated the possibility that Sam had lost his mind. As the chickens squawked in terror, she turned to see how Suzette was faring. The sight that met her eyes wiped out every other thought. A thick cloud of black smoke was pouring from both ends of her wagon. "No!" she screamed, twisting out of Sam's grasp. She hit the ground, stumbled, then struggled frantically to her feet and started to run, her breath coming in gasping sobs. She was still a long way from the burning wagon when Sam caught up with her. Wrapping his long arms around her, he restrained her, though she fought him with every ounce of strength she had.
It had to be done. That wagon was full of cholera.
"I thought you came back to help us," she cried, beating his chest with her fists. "But you just wanted to make sure we didn't catch up to the wagon train."
Nope, it's not true. I came to do what I could for you both.
He lifted his head to stare at the wagon, now engulfed in flame.
I had no choice. I'm sorry.
"You're sorry?"